dear listeners, to broadcast from elsewhere. We talk about media you may not hear about elsewhere. I'm Enigma, and I'm your host. I'm coming at you on a brand new microphone. Hopefully you can hear the difference. I know it certainly feels a lot better to me. Anyways, today we're covering our final Christmas movie of this season. No doubt you've probably heard of this one, but in case you haven't, here's a little background for you. Today we're looking at The Mean One, a Grinch horror movie that came out last year. I would kind of compare it to the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie that we also got back a year or two ago. Except, but in Winnie the Pooh's case, that character was already in the public domain. The difference is that in The Mean One, the characters from the book are not in the public domain, which means they can't use any of the same names in this film. Therefore, he's not the Grinch, he's the Mean One, and we don't have Whoville, we have Newville. There's even a character named Dr. Zeus, like the god, because they could use the name Dr. Seuss. So they have an actual character with, knowledge of the Mean One who they named Dr. Zeus. It's kind of dumb, but I kind of like it for that reason. This movie was made on a very tight budget. I couldn't find an exact number, unfortunately, but what I could find was that it only made $600,000 in the box office. However, I can't tell if that's a positive or a negative thing, but we'll just see if maybe we get a second one. This movie does have at least one star of note, at least to horror fans. If you are big into horror, you may know the name David Howard Thornton. He's known best for doing Art the Clown on the Terrifier movies. And if you haven't seen Terrifier movies, by the way, definitely check those out if you're a horror fan. If you're not a horror fan, it may not be for you, especially if you're squeamish. But regardless of all that, there is also one other thing that's one other person you may recognize, who's technically on the cast, and that is the writer of the movie. His name is Flip Kobler. He wrote this movie, but he also is known for writing several of the sequels for the straight-to-DVD Disney movies. Under his belt, he has Beauty and the Beast, Enchanted Christmas, Pocahontas 2, Lion King 2, Lady and the Tramp 2, and Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. So, he does know how to write, relatively good films. Some of those in that list are not exactly the greatest, but a good chunk of them are pretty good. A good chunk of them are pretty good, I would argue. Yes. Flip wrote this movie and also has a role in it as Cindy's father. The only thing that does really suck about this movie is that you can't stream it anywhere for free or anything like that. The only way to watch this movie is to rent it or to buy a DVD copy. Also, I feel I should mention DVD copies have just barely released in the past 2 months. So despite it coming out in theaters in December of last year, we didn't get any physical release or even a digital release from what I read until October of this year. That's quite a long time to make somebody wait for that. But by all means, if you really do want to check this out, honestly, it might be worth your time. Sure, it's kind of a dumb movie, but it's interesting and kind of a fun dumb. This is definitely the kind of movie you could put on with some friends and make fun of it or something like that. Just like I did say, it is of a very low budget and it definitely shows. So, crack open a 6-pack, grab some friends, put it on for a little while, have some fun, have some laughs. Honestly, that's enough preliminary background, I think. Why don't we get into the meat of this movie? Spoilers ahead, of course, but yeah. So, we start off the movie rather innocently. They start by telling us, We all know the story of Cindy you-know-who, because they can't say her name, because once again, copyright. So they show a little scene of Cindy coming down the stairs, finding the Grinch, or the mean one, excuse me. And, she does the typical thing of gives him a present and everything. She gives him this necklace. It's a little, it's a cheap little Santa Claus necklace that's, honestly not even probably worth 2 cents. Looks like something you could get out of, a prize counter at, Dave & Buster's or something. But, nonetheless, she puts the necklace around his neck, gives him a little kiss on the cheek, and says, "I forgive you," because he's stealing the presents and whatnot, of course. And we have a narrator who is throughout the whole movie basically trying to kind of emulate this narration that you get from the original cartoon series, or not cartoon series, but cartoon movie, which is funny considering that the makeup for the character, to me, and to a lot of other people, seems to emulate more of the Jim Carrey version, but regardless, but the narrator says, but what if I told you it didn't happen like that? It's very, very, Riverdale-esque or whatever. It's oh, the darkness beneath, and all that stuff. So then they show us what really happened, which is Cindy's mother comes down, and it's get away, Cindy, it's a monster, because, she still gives it a necklace and everything, but she starts beating shit, the ever-loving shit out of this monster with a, toy soldier statue thing that she had. And, the viewer's not even, fighting back really that much at all. In fact, Cindy's mother kind of accidentally dies here. He doesn't really kill her. Here's what happens. She takes this giant, tin soldier thing and starts beating him over the head with it, right? And at some point, that thing breaks, and she drops. He, finally pushes back on her, and she drops the thing on the floor behind her, and she falls onto a piece of the soldier statue thing that had gotten. Anyways, she falls on something sharp in that soldier and kills herself that way. It's really not even his fault or its fault that she's dead. Also, we get the least emotional delivery possible from this little girl who plays the younger Cindy. So it's really embarrassing because she tries to go Mom, no, and she says it in the blind, Mom, no, blindest way possible. And then when she turns to the monster, it's very blandly, monster. So poor girl probably didn't get very good direction or something. We could have definitely done a second take, but no, budget probably, who knows. But after that, we then flash forward a bit to 20 years later. Now Cindy is a grown woman, of course, and for whatever reason, it seems to be because of therapy, she's decided to return back to Newville, along with her father. So they're driving along. They've got those cheesy reindeer, decoration costume thingies on their car. The nose and the antlers. As they get into town, they're almost immediately pulled over by a cop who tells them that apparently their decorations are illegal in this town, so they have to lose the reindeer decorations basically. And of course we'll learn there's a good reason for this later, but I think you can guess why. This traffic stop scene does introduce us to a important character here of Deputy Burke. He'll be around throughout the entire movie, so we see him around quite a bit. He's also the love interest for this movie, which is rather obvious because they make him stumble all over his words in the first time. Oh, and also the film can't let you forget that he's Jewish, not even for a second, which I guess is important because one, he doesn't celebrate Christmas, so I guess it's he's not going to be targeted by the main one. But they make such a point of it where it's okay, we get it, guys, we know, you told us, thank you. But and this is only been 5 minutes into the movie and they're already oh, here's a love interest, and it's guys, take your time, please. You got a whole hour and a half, just take your time. Anyways, so Cindy and her dad go back to the childhood home and start cleaning up the place. Some bats fly out of a chimney and spook the shit out of her. Nothing really big really happens, honestly. At least not right away. She does have a nightmare, though, about the mean one coming to attack her. The next morning, she goes to the cafe, and she runs into the old sheriff, Sheriff Hooper. We learn through a flashback that he's the same guy who interviewed her on the night of her mother's death. He asked her for a police sketch and description of the perpetrator. And of course, she gave him a very rudimentary drawing of the Grinch. And of course, he didn't believe that. In fact, he even had a green ski mask that he claimed he found somewhere nearby the scene. But anyways, back in present day, her father comes back to the cafe to see her. He tells her he couldn't find any Christmas decorations at all, because he had gone out to go buy some decorations. Now, that's kind of a problem for me here, because in this next scene, see, of course, now, there wasn't any decorations available to buy because, people aren't into Christmas here in Newville, which is a lie, but But then they go back to their house, and they already have, ornaments and a tree and all that jazz. It's what were you going to buy then? Why were you needing to buy things if you already had the stuff you need? What was the point? Were you really just going to go out and buy a new tree, a new, garland, new everything just because you wanted to? What? Anyways, they have a little montage of them decorating the house, including a pretty small tree in my opinion, considering that it's maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. I mean, hey, more power to you if you want a small tree, but for a large house, that feels really small. Humorously small. You don't even see him trying to, he's eye level with the star when he puts the star on top of the tree. So, yeah. But later that night, Cindy is taking out the trash when she gets locked out, and we watch as she struggles to get back inside, as the mean one starts to attack her dad, as he had snuck in because she left the door open like a dumbass when she went outside to take the trash out. So after a brief struggle, he kills the dad. He stabs him through the eye with some kind of staff, it looked like, or other item. Anyways, not important, I know. But he takes all the decor with him as well, and runs up through the chimney, escaping the house. Cindy ends up in the hospital and tries once again to describe the mean one to the police. So it's the deputy that's talked to against again, Deputy Burke. The mayor also comes by. She's also a, somewhat important player in this movie. The mayor likes to think that apparently the killer is not back. So she's trying to convince her, oh yeah, no, I'm sure it's not the same guy. After she gets out of the hospital, once she gets discharged, the deputy goes ahead and drives her home. And Cindy talks about how she wants to go ahead and just move away, because got no reason to stay. And I agree, because why would she want to stay after both of her parents got murdered in this town, and there's literally nothing here for her? So, I get it. Cindy goes inside the home, and she starts to clean up the mess inside the home. She cleans up the blood even of her father, which I would think that would be the police's job, but sure, why not, But while she's cleaning up, she finds a strange flower. And she finds that it only grows in the mountains of Newville. So of course, she goes to check them out. She goes up to the mountain with a camera in hand, taking pictures of pretty much the randomest shit. She just goes up there and starts doing nature photography, and it's ma'am, you're on a mission. What are you doing? But she's looking through the lens, and she sees a couple that brought some mistletoe, and they were just about to kiss, And suddenly a blur runs by and shoves her in a hole. So she lands down in this little small cavern. She finds a wallet with an ID. She goes out and pockets it, and is able to easily climb out of the hole, which is probably not a good sign, in my opinion. You would think you'd make it a little harder to escape, wouldn't you? But whatever. And she just goes back to taking pictures after that, almost as if nothing happened. Lady, you just, what are you doing? So, of course, the main one comes by and starts to attack the couple that was kissing with the mistletoe. But Cindy yells out at him, starts throwing some rocks at him too. distract him basically. Doesn't save the couple though, they both still die. This is where we got our first actual look. You see, until now, he's just always had his back turned, or what's been obscured, like a blurry face kind of situation, like he's moving too fast, we can't see him, that kind of stuff. So here's where we get his first really good look at him. And like I said, he looks a lot like the Jim Carrey version. Like a little twisted, of course, but pretty close to it. Also, the meat one in this does not talk at all. He's like, he cannot speak, it seems like. He just roars and growls at you. And that's it. They're really lacking on their lore of this character, honestly, because they don't ever tell us anything about him. It's just, like, we don't know why, really, he was stealing Christmas to begin with. Like, there's no real rhyme or reason for him to do the things he does, except for the fact of, oh, he's a monster. And that's a pretty lame excuse in my opinion, but nonetheless. Her rock throwing apparently works, as he does flee. She checks on the victim, but it seems the girl actually did survive, but somehow lost her glasses in the scuffle and therefore could not see the main one. Which is kind of stupid, because I'm pretty sure even without your glasses, you would tell, like, hey, that's a green person. Like, yeah, your vision's gonna be blurry as fuck, but if you took off your glasses, if you wear glasses, for example, take off your glasses and look at somebody, you can still see them, they're just blurry. Now yes, you wouldn't be able to give a very good description of the monster, but you'd definitely be able to tell it wasn't human, because it's a furry green thing wearing a Santa Claus costume. Like, you know, you can definitely say, oh, it's green, or it was wearing green, or something. But stupidity aside, Sandy ends up giving the ID card and wallets that she found to Deputy Burke, so he can go and find out who it belonged to, and we know who it belonged to because of their ID, but find out where that person is, basically, you know? Find out what happened to them. And we later see him running a search for this, but we find out that the owner of this here wallet / ID went missing in 2009, meaning they are long gone now. We then have quite a few Santas and elves driving into town. They have a SantaCon banner on their van, so, you know, honestly, this is just more or less of a pit stop for them. If you didn't know, SantaCon is an actual convention. It's up in San Francisco. Apparently there's also one in New York. But it's a real convention for Santa Claus actors. I don't really know what you do at this convention, but hey, sounds like it could be fun. Why not? Anyways, they make a stop at a diner in Newville, and of course, they don't last very long. Because, let's face it, they're basically fresh meat the way they're, you know, just running around in Santa Claus costumes. You're basically just saying, kill me if you're going to Newville. So, the first kill we see is that the waitress is in the back room, and the lights start to flicker around. She turns around to see a trail of blood that leads right into the freezer door. She walks in and sees a man who got stabbed in the neck with an icicle, and the door, of course, promptly shuts behind her. So, it doesn't take long for the main one to get to work on everyone else. Also, at one point during this scene, while he's murdering all these Santa Clauses, there's just a random-ass tree guy that shows up out of nowhere. Like he's in wearing like one of those inflatable costumes, and this one's of a Christmas tree. I don't know where the fuck he came from. He just appeared. Like he wasn't in the van that was going to SantaCon. He just suddenly appears, and he dies, or they die too, but you know, still weird. I think it's also funny because they have a driver who doesn't come into the restaurant with them, and he sees all the commotion. Like he can't tell if they're dying, obviously, but he sees all the commotion inside the diner and just shrugs it away. Goes back to his phone. But we do get some pretty interesting kills here. For example, one thing he does is they have one of those little receipt spikes, you know, metal spike that you put the receipts on in the diner. There's one of those around. So he slams one person's head onto that, killing them pretty much instantly. He also throws somebody into a meat grinder, and with a Christmas tree guy who came out of absolutely fucking nowhere, he takes a candy cane, like, I guess it's a blade, or maybe it's like a lawn spike, who knows. Either way, he takes it and jams it into its torso, kills them. Later that night, Cindy is packing up some things at her home when she sees the news bulletin about the murders at the diner. Then her power mysteriously shuts off, and I bet you can guess what's happening. She goes to the breaker box to turn back on the power, but fortunately the power just keeps turning back off every time she turns it on. We then get a shot of the main one outside, peeking in basically. She finally catches on to what's happening. He chases her very briefly, gets into the house and chases her, but she's able to get away into her room and hide. The door does eventually open, but when it opens, it's not the main one, although she does punch the man. But it's the man I mentioned earlier, Dr. Seuss, or they usually just call him Doc in this. He invites her out for a drink so they can go talk somewhere. So they go off to a bar in town, and it's named Horton's. Very fun. Little reference there, of course, to Horton Hears a Who. There's a few random little references here and there in this little movie here. For example, I forgot to mention it earlier, but when she's in the hospital, they have a brief shot of a red fish and a blue fish inside of a fishbowl at the secretary desk for the hospital. And of course, there's the whole Dr. Seuss name and Horton now. And here at the bar, we have yet another little Easter egg. So I'll get to that in just a second, though. So Doc explains to her some stuff about the main one. And he almost gets him a copyright strike there, because he almost says Mr. Grinch. But thankfully, the bartender is there to censor him. A fun little gag here, every time he tries to go to say Mr. Grinch, she says that the bartender will pipe in looking for a Mike Fitch, who's supposed to be in the bar. And fun little fact, the bartender lady in this scene is actually played by one of the moms from the Jim Carrey version. If you remember, in the Jim Carrey version, the Grinch was a baby. He was adopted by these two women who I'm pretty sure were a couple. Let's not even lie about it. Come on. And one of those women is actually the bartender in this movie, so I think that's pretty funny. But Doc explains that the smallest Christmas thing will provoke the main one into attacking you. He then goes on to explain that he lost his own wife to the main one 11 years ago. See, his wife had went to mail off some presents to their kids in a different state. But as soon as she stepped outside of her car with all the wrapped packages, Meanie came on by and killed her. So, one thing here. At this point, they already knew about the whole Christmas stuff. Like, oh, we're not supposed to do anything Christmas related. Why then would you wrap the packages? Especially if you're gonna mail them. Like, what's the point? I don't know if that's something people do, but I don't see the point of wrapping your gifts if you're mailing them off. After she learns all this, she goes back to the police station and tries to talk to them again. To the sheriff mostly, but the deputy's there as well, because he's always there. Anyways, she tells them about Doc, but the sheriff brushes it off because, he's like the town drunk, so they don't believe a thing he says. However, the deputy, being a little simp he is, offers to go ahead and go to the mountain to check things out for Cindy. She doesn't think that's dangerous at all, apparently, and goes ahead and lets him do that. So he goes up and he has this little, rope system that he rigged up so he can drop down into the cave and explore and stuff. He finds several wallets, picks them up and all pockets them all so he can run the IDs later. But while he's down there, he also finds another little Easter egg here in the form of a plush toy that looks like Max from the original films. So it's a little dog and has the one reindeer horn on it. And of course, it plays Christmas music, so he accidentally sets it off and it starts blaring out I forget what song it is, but not important. So he desperately tries to shut it up, but he can't, so he throws it away, and in comes Meanie, dragging in a corpse. He tries to get up and run, but he trips, so he hides under a little blanket that they had a bunch of corpses under, because for some reason, the Grinch likes to cover up his corpses for whatever reason. If he's such an animal that they act like he is, why is he covering up the corpses? Wouldn't he just not care and just keep them around? But, why am I trying to apply logic to a parody freaking horror movie. I don't know. But thankfully the the mean one, is distracted enough by the Max toy and starts to smash it and beat the shit out of it, and then promptly pretty much just leaves. So the deputy gets up out of the cave, and outside is good old Dr. Zeus. Nothing much really happens, it just tells me you have no idea what you're going up against, and that's really all it is. But later that night at Cindy's home, Burke shows her all the wallets that he found, and they have another little nice moment together, a little flirty moment, because we must have romance in a movie. We must. It's impossible to make a movie without a romantic subplot, don't you know that? Come on now. I just think it's always dumb when they try to shoehorn in romance into something like this, but whatever. She has another nightmare now, this time with Burke involved, where they're in the shower together when suddenly the mean one comes by and just kills him in the shower with her. But he doesn't attack her, he just attacks Burke for some reason. Of course, like I said, it's a nightmare, so she awakens. And for some reason, that's the straw that breaks Camel's back, is now she wants to kill it. Not after it killed her mother, not after it killed her father, but after it killed the man that she's known for now 2 days. 2 days! She wants to get it dead for a man that she barely knows, but is already falling on head over heels for and shit. So we get a little training montage, like Eye of the Tiger type shit, where she's learning how to punch, she's learning how to shoot and everything. And she's like self-taught, so it's like, I can't imagine that's like amazing, you know? Sure, whatever man, you can shoot a target, but can you shoot a moving target and all that stuff, you know? It's... Anyways, later that night it would seem, a sheriff arrests Doc as he's leaving the bar, because he knows that he's too drunk to drive, so he takes him back to the station and locks him up. Meanwhile, the mayor is packing up to leave for the holidays, presumably, because this is on Christmas Eve right now, and they talk very cryptically, her and the sheriff, about how the truth will come out soon about the monster. We'll get into that in a moment here. We then go back to Cindy's home, where she has a drawing of the Grinch, and she's for some reason reciting like part of the Grinch poem. It's like not even, it doesn't even feel like right in the moment, because she's just sitting there, she's looking at the drawing. She's sitting there looking at the drawing, and she goes, maybe his shoes were too tight, or his heart was 2 sizes too small. And I was just like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? But Burke comes over while she's doing her weird bullshit, and he shows her some of the files that he'd found from looking up the missing people from the wallets that he found in the cave site. He also shows her all of the posts that the people made right before they died on their Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And it turns out all of these people had posted a picture in the Newville Mountains, and you can see in all of them they have like this very poorly photoshopped in picture of the mean one, just like sneaking around the bushes behind them, basically. It's so dumb. It looks like a fucking like blurry little Bigfoot creature. And it's so clearly photoshopped that it's almost embarrassing, you know. He then shows her the website that was advertising about the flowers earlier, which I would think she would have known about, because she found, because they show us the website and then they transition to the mountains, so that seems to say that she knew about the website, so you would think she would already know about this website. Whatever. Anyways, Deputy Burke reveals that the person running this site, which is advertised in the mountains and encouraging people to go out to hike the mountains, is the mayor. So basically what happened was, the mayor used to be the deputy for Sheriff Hooper before, way before Burke even moved to the town. When she finally got elected as mayor, she decided that to put an end to their stuff with the mean one, that they would just let people get sacrificed to him by inviting tourists to come and hike and get murdered, you know. What a fun vacation idea, guys. You want to go to the mountains and get murdered by a monster? Sure you do. So Cindy gets ready to go ahead and fight the mean one. She goes upstairs to grab all her gear, Burke tries to stop her, but, unsuccessful. And he does tell her one thing, though. He tells her not to become like the monster. You can try to kill it, but just don't become it. Meanwhile, we see that the mayor is now just making it almost out of the city limits. And suddenly her car breaks down and randomly starts playing Christmas music, because that's what cars do when they break down, as we know. The radio stations change to Christmas automatically. It's a built-in feature. What are you talking about? You don't know what I mean. So she stops the car and tries to open the hood to take a look at the car, which I don't know what opening the hood would do for the radio, but sure, whatever, lady. You could literally just press the mute button on the radio, but whatever. But as soon as she gets out of the car, more or less, she gets attacked. He pushes her into the trunk and slams the trunk door down onto her neck, decapitating her. He also tries to choke her with her, mayor, I voted sticker things. Which doesn't make any sense, because those things, the little, parchment paper that those things are on, that you peel them off of, it's paper. It breaks so fucking easily. So, that doesn't really make sense, but it will. So Burke then goes ahead and confronts the sheriff about the website. He tells them, what I already told you about how the mayor and him set it up. But we also do learn a bit about the first time the sheriff ever encountered the monster, which when he was trying to rescue some lady named Stephanie. Because he thought originally that it was just a drifter, like an actual human being. But unfortunately, no. So trying to keep the beast fed, they even show him giving it a goat that he puts a Santa Claus coat on. It's so fucking stupid. But apparently the Grinch likes goats now, so good for him, I guess. I don't know. Just seems silly. But after that little flashback, Burke tells the sheriff he's gonna go ahead and hunt that thing and get rid of it once and for all. Sheriff thinks it's a dumb idea, but he goes anyways. Sheriff then leaves his keys out for Doc to get. He leaves them on the cell bars so that Doc can reach out, unlock himself when he's ready. Meanwhile, Cindy's back at home. She's decorated the absolute shit out of her home, so make sure that the maid one will come by for a visit. She hears a trap spring outside, but it's not the Grinch, is instead Doc. He'd been coming to warn her that Burke was going to the mountain to hunt it. So the two of them head off to the mountains to get Burke. Not the mountains. Burke is already there, of course, and trying to hunt the beast. He's trying to lure it out with the Christmas songs, and then for some reason he switches over to the dreidel song, which I don't know what he expected to happen, because once again it does things for Christmas, not for Hanukkah. I don't think the Grinch hates Hanukkah. If he did, this would be a much more divisive film. In fact, I don't think a lot of people would like it at all, if that was the case. But nonetheless, he runs into a trap that the Grinch had set. That the mean one had set. Whatever. It's the Grinch. Fuck it. He's the Grinch. Deal with it. Anyways, he falls into a trap. And so he's in the cave now. He lands feet first, but he lands on a bear trap. And Grinch comes up to him as he's trying to escape. But lo and behold, Sheriff Hooper had also come to the mountains, it seems, and is already in the caves. So he shoots at the Grinch a few times, scares him away, and then he helps Burke get out of the trap and tells him to get out and he'll handle it. And unsurprisingly, Hooper dies. Oh well. Yeah, he wanders into the cave a little deeper, and there's a really dark part. He keeps shooting the gun to illuminate the darkness, but he never hits the Grinch. And I don't think it would matter anyways, because this fucking guy can take bullets like it's nothing. But he gets attacked, and we're assuming he's dead. So outside, Cindy and Doc help Burke back to the car, and she has Doc drive him to a hospital. And she decides to go back home and go ahead and spring her trap on the main one. She wants to kill him for good now. So she lays on the couch, pretending to sleep, because, obviously. But the Grinch comes in and falls for it, thinking that she's asleep. He attacks her, but she kicks him out of the way. He gets in front of the window and he gets shot by a sniper rifle because it looks like Doc knows how to shoot a sniper rifle. Okay, sure, why not? But their victory is very short-lived as he kind of just poofs away. He doesn't, he just suddenly disappears and then he's in front of the guy's rifle on the other rooftop. So he attacks him. She comes up on him and gets him off of Doc. He runs away. Doc tells her he's fine and to just, kill the dang beast, right? So she walks not very far away, just a little bit closer towards her home, and almost immediately, there's the Grinch again. Oh yeah, something I forgot to mention is her weapons are all like Christmas themed, so she has a candy cane shotgun and a candy cane pistol. She uses both of those on him. She used the shotgun earlier, but ran out of bullets or something. And then she has the pistol now. She runs out of bullets on that too. She does shoot him a few times though. Not that it fucking makes a difference. But then she takes out a baseball bat that's wrapped in Christmas lights, because of course it is. Eventually it's able to get the bat away from her, and she has to run away, but she has these little ornaments that she was holding on to. She had them strapped to her body. Turns out they're grenades, because of course they are. The thing I've learned here is apparently that Christmas items can be weapons. I mean, hell, we had smoke bomb glitter in the freaking Elfette movie earlier this month. So why not just have freaking exploding Christmas ornaments? Why not? But of course that explosion is not enough to take care of the main one. She runs back inside and he's already waiting for her on the floor. Brief scuffle, but then he's distracted when Doc starts playing Christmas music over the loudspeaker in the cop car that they'd used to get there. So she's able to get the drop on him now as she exposes a hidden fuse in the carpet. A fuse made out of a Christmas tree, which leads to the Christmas tree. So she lights the fuse and makes the tree explode, knocking over the Grinch. She runs over to him and grabs a knife that she had hid inside of a present box, but then she can't bring herself to kill him for some reason. Then she suddenly notices on around his neck, he's wearing the necklace that she gave him all those years ago. And we get another flashback to that first night that they first met. Where, like I said earlier, we can tell that it was completely an accident that the mom got killed. And I guess it seems like maybe the Grinch is remorseful about this, but then if he's so remorseful and didn't want to kill the mother, why did he keep killing other people? They try to make it seem like he's somewhat innocent or scared or confused or whatever, but what the fuck? Did her calling him a monster really set him off that much where he's oh, I'll show you a monster or something? It's what is the fucking point of that? Anyways, she decides she can't kill him and she just gives him a kiss on the cheek and says, I forgive you, just like she did all those years ago. And he seems happy about that. He gets so happy that his heart goes 3 sizes and fucking explodes. I'm not kidding. He literally sits there, gets all happy looking, and starts to writhe in agony out of nowhere, and his heart just explodes. And he dies. Honestly, a very fun way to kill a Grinch character, I would say. Because people have said that before too, oh, if your heart really grew that large, you would die. There's your proof, I suppose. So, next day we see a news report about apparently the picture that Cindy had taken earlier when she was out doing her little, nature photography BS in the mountains. One of those pictures went viral, and it's literally just the Grinch doing the classic Bigfoot walk. If you've seen the Bigfoot pictures, you've definitely seen that blurry picture of him walking just sideways or whatever, walking by the camera. So that went viral, and now all these people are flocking to Newville to find the monster, to hunt it down or whatever. So now there's a bunch of tourists, and Newville is finally celebrating Christmas again because they all know that the beast is dead somehow. So all is right with the world, right? So we have a little scene where Burke and Cindy share their first kiss under the mistletoe, and the narrator informs us that everything was right in the world. Until next year, at least, apparently, so who knows? Maybe we'll get a Mean One Part 2. Maybe we'll have a better budget, just like the new Winnie the Pooh movie. But I'm surprised we got a sequel on that, because that was actually objectively horrible. But this movie, actually, I would say, surprisingly, it might be worth it. Is it good? Absolutely not. It's awful. But it's like a good awful. It's like so stupid, you kind of love it, in a way. At least I did. So, by all means, if you want to check it out, go right ahead and do so. The only problem, like I said, is you'd have to rinse it, unless you want to resort to some unsavory methods. But regardless, I think it's worth a shot. So go and check it out. It's only like $5 a rent if you do want to spend money on it. But that's all I've got really to say on it. Pretty fun experience overall. Stupid, but fun. So, next time. So for the January month coming up here, we're going to be covering a lot of my favorite movies that are just obscure or underrated in my opinion. The very first movie we're going to be checking out is going to be Throw Mama from the Train, which is directed and stars Danny DeVito. It also stars Billy Crystal. It's a wonderful little comedy crime-esque film about a man trying to convince another man to do sort of a trade killing, if you will. It's available on Max if you want to check it out. I recommend it. So tune in for that next time. Until then, this is Enigma, signing off. And have a happy new year.